This week we are going to focus on SMR style stretching. So SMR is going to stand for self-myofascial release. So the S is for self. Self meaning that you are going to be able to perform this on your own. You don't need a partner or anyone to help you with this. The M is for myofascial, and myofascial literally means the fascia around our muscles. And then the R is going to stand for release, and we are going to actually release the fascia that surrounds our muscles, or release some of those knots and adhesions that we get within our muscles. So what is fascia? You guys can go ahead and read what's said on the slide there, but fascia is basically surrounds our muscles. It's around every one of our main muscle groups, and it's all over our body. We have some areas that are going to be super dense bands of fascia, and some areas that maybe are not as thick. Some really thick areas or some dense areas of fascia are located in our low back. Also, the bottom of our foot or our plantar fascia is also very, very thick. When I talk about this with a lot of students, it's kind of hard to imagine what fascia is. So I like to relate it back to if you've seen a raw chicken breast. Sometimes you get the chicken breast from the grocery store, and when you go to take that, like a skinless chicken breast, when you go to take your chicken breast and cut it up before you're going to cook it, and there will be that like thin white film almost over top of that chicken breast. That is actually what fascia is. It's that it's white, and it's kind of that band, and so we have that all over our muscles. So I think kind of thinking about our muscles as kind of that raw chicken breast with that white band of fascia over top of it. And then we are ultimately going to use a tool like a rolling pin ultimately to kind of roll out that fascia so there aren't any knots or adhesions within that fascia. So as you're kind of thinking about this, I think that's an easy way to kind of relate it back to real life, is thinking about muscles. Our muscle looks like a chicken breast, and our foam roller or tennis ball or whatever we are going to use to help roll out that fascia is related back to that rolling pin example. So I talked about one of the areas that has very dense fascia on our body is the bottom of our foot or our plantar fascia. And you can see there's that thick white band. That is our plantar fascia. And plantar fasciitis, some of you have probably heard of this. Some of you may have even experienced it. It's a very common issue. And you have an article to read this week about plantar fascia in your module. But plantar fascia or plantar fasciitis is actually the inflammation of the fascia on the bottom of your foot. So when our fascia on the bottom of our foot gets inflamed, you'll notice a lot of pain. And so by one of the techniques that is in your module this week is to actually take a tennis ball and roll that plantar fascia on the bottom of your feet, especially for people who are on their feet for long periods of time. So think about waiters and waitresses, nurses, even any individual who has a stand-up job, delivery individuals, anything like that. And then also people who may have to wear dress-type shoes or high heels to work. So think about all your business people, things like that. So that's putting some tension on that plantar fascia, and could be a reason to get plantar fasciitis. So go ahead and read more about that in your module this week as well. So why does our fascia get tight? Our fascia is going to get tight for a variety of reasons. So think about repetitive movements. So think a factory worker, a cashier, a mailman, all those people who are constantly doing the same thing over and over and over multiple even hundreds of times a day, and then over the course of several days, a week in a row. So repetitive movements. I constantly, let's say I'm the mailman, I'm constantly using my right arm to turn the key in the mailbox, open up the mailbox, grab the mail, and put it in, right? So that constant repetitive movement, okay? Poor posture. We all have bad posture. I know a lot of you are working from home right now or doing school from home. You may not have a ergonomically correct desk set up. You might be doing your work at a kitchen table or on the sofa. So poor posture in general causes our body to be at not appropriate length tension relationships. So that's going to cause us to be tight, cause our fascia to get some knots or adhesions in them. And also, the human body is naturally lazy. We always are going to take the path of least resistance. So if something isn't at the appropriate, if one of our muscles isn't at the appropriate length tension relationship, we're just going to compromise by having a movement that is not as efficient. So think about the NASM overhead squat assessment and all those compensations you may have seen with your client about their toes turning outward because their calves were really tight. Well, my calves are tight maybe because I'm wearing high heels all the time to work and I'm not properly stretching them. So I have tight calves because my heels are tight. So now my toes are going to turn outward, or my feet are going to turn outward. Okay. And so my body is naturally going to turn my feet outward because that's the path of least resistance, because I have tight calves now, right? So all of these things kind of go hand in hand. If we don't have appropriate length tension relationships, if we're not nice and loose and all of our muscles aren't at the appropriate amount of flexibility, then we're naturally going to see some more compensations. So we want to ultimately get people to being the most flexible they can, having the best posture, having the best length tension relationships with all of their muscles. So here's some specifics about SMR. SMR can be done before or after a workout. If a client's coming into an exercise session and they're super sore, or they are sore from lifting the day before and today they're just going to be running, we're going to want them to foam roll before so that they have an appropriate gait or appropriate range of motion before their session. It can also be used at the end of a workout after a heavy lifting session. Maybe I want to roll out after as part of my cool down. Okay, and slow is the way to go. Rolling slowly is the most ideal. You're going to watch some videos about how to appropriately foam roll different areas of your muscles this week, or areas of your body this week. Generally, a rate of moving 1 inch every 2 to 4 seconds is ideal. Some of the NASM literature will say 1 inch every 1 second. The goal really is to move slowly. I'm sure several of you have been inside a gym before and you've seen someone hop on a foam roller to roll out their calves, and they're just going a mile a minute, right? Just rolling up and down, up and down, up and down, nice and quick. That's not really doing anything to actually help with their with the adhesions or the knots inside their muscle. Okay, so they're not getting the bang for their buck by doing that, for sure. And then we want to hold at a tight spot. So when you find a tight spot or an area that is sensitive, you're going to want to hold on that spot for somewhere between 30, 90 seconds up to 2 minutes, or until the discomfort subsides. Foam rolling shouldn't be comfortable. Remember that all stretching should provide some discomfort, but if it's painful and severe pain, that's too intense and we need to back off. Okay, so those are kind of your specifics of SMR. You can use a variety of tools. A foam roller. Some of you may have seen this type of foam roller. It's called the rumble roller, where it actually looks like it has tire treads. So that would be an extremely dense or create a high amount of friction when rolling. Remember, the denser or harder the object is, the deeper the pressure will be. So there's varying different types of foam rollers out there. some of you have probably seen the white foam rollers. The white foam rollers are the least dense, and then they go up, and then the black would be the most dense of the foam rollers. And then you would move up to, if you needed something even more dense or creating more pressure, you could go up to something like this, which is the rumble roller that has some treads on it. Okay, same thing if you were using a ball to stretch. So a tennis ball is going to be kind of our least dense. Then we may move up to something that is more dense, like a lacrosse ball or a baseball, a softball, something like that. I have this posted in your module for you as well. This just talks about, and this is from ACSM, about different tools. So massage canes, foam rollers, a rolling stick, tennis ball, lacrosse ball, softball, baseball, and then there's other massage objects as well. So you can look through this. It just tells you kind of some areas that you would want to use that specific tool to help you get the deepest stretch. So some contraindications to foam rolling. Always pay special attention to the low back. While it is fine to roll the low back now, ideally, most people really don't experience a lot of low back pain because of the fascia. They experience low back pain because of tight hamstrings. So just remember that if someone is having a lot of low back pain, more than likely it's not because of the fascia in their lower back. It really has to do with all of the muscles and the connection points that we have with our hamstrings up into that low back area. Okay. We're never going to roll the cervical spine. The cervical spine is going to be our neck area. We're never going to roll over varicose veins. If someone has extreme osteoporosis, think really frail or brittle bones, you would never want to have someone roll over those. If someone has breast implants or has had breast cancer, we're going to want to stay away from that area and in foam rolling and using the tennis ball. Okay. Pregnant women in their third trimester should only roll as is tolerated. When I was pregnant, I foam rolled the whole time because it felt good for me and I was comfortable and it was something I was used to doing. So as always, when you're working with a pregnant client, you would always want to consult their doctor on that. And then individuals who have any other major medical conditions, heart failure, skin conditions, liver failure, bleeding disorders, would always need to consult with their doctor, just as you would if you were performing any type of stretching program for them. And so this week you are going to practice. There are several videos from NASM that are posted for you in your module. So if you go into your modules, you will see there are a ton of videos on how to foam roll. This is going to be taking you right to YouTube, the NASM YouTube channel. And there are 14 videos. They're only about 1 or 2 minutes a piece. So really quick, and you're going to be able to play them all and really get a handle on how you should be foam rolling. Please note that this last video, video number 14, talks a little bit about how to correct someone's feet turning out. I am not requiring you to know this. This is just kind of a bonus one in there. But go ahead and look over the videos, and I want you to actually perform the foam rolling with them during the video if you can. So it might be a good idea if you're brand new to foam rolling to watch the video and then perform it with them the second time you watch it. So good luck. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will talk to you all soon.